What if you totally lack self awareness? You're completely unaware of what it is that fucked you up, right? What if you're not doing the work on yourself? What if you're not healing? Well, the reality of life for individuals that lack self awareness, that lack understanding of what it is that fucked them up, and are actually not doing the work to heal, they're just going to continue repeating the patterns that they have been throughout their entire lives. I find this to be very interesting because as I do the work on myself, as I heal, right, as I change, because as I heal, my energy shifts and I change as an individual. I look at the people that I've known and people that I also haven't known, and I think to myself that they're actually not changing. That doesn't mean that they're not going to. It just means that they aren't changing. And if you aren't changing, then you're just continuing to live your life the same way over and over and over again, right? The theme of this video is truth and reality. It is just that is the way that it is, right? And the reason why this video is so important and is so interesting is because the reality of every individual that is like that is that they're just going to continue repeating patterns until and I, until is subject. It's not even like until might not happen. Until what, right? People don't always just wake up and be like, holy shit, my childhood sucked. I've been repeating patterns that have been so fucked up. I didn't intend for that to rhyme. But anyway, um, not everyone does that. That's just the reality of it, right? And, the other reality of it too is that even if someone like does do that, they don't always change. I'm starting to realize that change in an individual doesn't always happen and is actually less common than we would like to think. But the reality of the matter is that if you lack self-awareness, if you lack an understanding of what it is that traumatized you, and you're not doing a single motherfucking thing to change it, right? Therapy, you're just going to continue doing the same thing over and over and over again. That personally scares the ever living shit out of me. And when I say that, I don't mean like a deep fear, like, oh my God. I just mean like, wow. Like your life could be different, and it's not going to be because you're not doing anything to change what fucked you up. You're not doing any deeply rooted work to change your situation, to change your life. And that's just the reality of it, right? So, the very reality of any individual that is unaware of themselves and what fucked them up, and they're not doing the work to actively and consistently heal, they're just going to continue repeating patterns from childhood. They're going to continue people pleasing. They're going to continue putting mommy and daddy's needs first before their own and live a life of resentment with relationships that are fucked up, that are based around that, all the while just running in fucking circles of why the fuck, not even asking why the fuck is this happening. No. They're not going to look at themselves. They're going to look at other people. Oh, you're the problem. Oh, you're the problem. They're going to blame their relationships, and then maybe they'll take a relationship out of their life and they'll find another person, right, that is, paralleled to the same dynamic. Um, it's wild. Repetition compulsion is a real thing. It really is. And the very reality of people repeating patterns, being unaware of themselves, unaware of what it is that fucked them up, and actually not healing, right? Doing the work to heal is challenging. It really is. Feeling things that you didn't previously allow yourself to feel, processing things that you didn't previously allow yourself to process is difficult. It really is. So, what is the reality for people that lack self awareness, lack an awareness of what it is that fucked them up in childhood, right? Childhood trauma, and are not actually doing the work? the same fucking thing that they have been experiencing their entire life, which is that same pattern of repetition compulsion, right? They're the type of person that, like, you may have known in high school as, I don't know, just this, that, and the other. It wasn't healthy. And you might see them decades down the line in the exact same fucking place. I'm not here to judge anybody, but what I am here to do is to simply look at the reality that a person can change, but not everyone does, right? Because that's just the reality of it. Some people actually stay exactly the same. They do. They stay exactly the same, and that's just the way that it is, right? Patterns are repeated unless or until awareness sits under them and you actually be like, oh, a very massive, loud, and profound oh. It's the reality of things, right? Patterns continue being repeated until you become aware of them and you actually do something about them. And believe me, there are like a multitude of things that are required to really like actually step forth into action. Like, you've got to have a willingness to look at yourself. Narcissists usually don't. They lack the capacity to self-reflect, which is why you hardly ever see a narcissist change. Um, and when I say hardly ever, I mean hardly ever. It's rare, once in a blue moon. But that's just on the subject of narcissists. Um, yeah, individuals that lack self-awareness, that lack an awareness of what it is that traumatized them in childhood, and that are not doing the work to heal, you're just going to see them making the same decisions over and over again, repeating the same patterns, doing the same things. That's the reality of it. That doesn't change. What doesn't change in us doesn't change. What doesn't change in us doesn't change our lives. You know, people whose lives change, it's a result because they've actually done the work to change. Your life doesn't just change. Your life doesn't just change for no reason. Like, either you become aware of yourself and you become aware of what it is that messed you up, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to do the work to heal myself and to stop doing all these things. That happens for people that choose that path. It doesn't for people that don't. Let me make this very clear. Your life changing doesn't just happen. It doesn't. You don't just wake up one day and your life has changed. No. It requires self awareness. It requires an awareness of what it is that messed you up in childhood. Um, and it requires actually doing the work in therapy. Right? I um I highlight therapy in this context, and I'm not talking about any therapy. Um I don't really believe that a majority of therapists are actually good at what they do. Just gonna call it for what it is. I believe that a majority of therapy out there and therapists focus very much on surface level stuff, defense mechanisms, symptoms, behavioral shit, and completely void going deep, right? And going deep is what you need to do to actually change your fucking life. Understanding what it is that fucked you up in childhood. But a majority of therapists are just not trained for that. They're trained to be like, okay, how can we approach your thought processes differently? Your thought processes would completely shift and transform if you looked at what it is that made them in the first place, which is rooted in childhood, right? It's not about thinking different thoughts or thinking better thoughts. It's about understanding why the fuck your thoughts were developed that way in the first place. And that goes back to childhood. That's what transforms all of it, right? But yes, just to make it very clear again, the very reality of any individual that lacks self awareness, that lacks an awareness of what it is that fucked them up in childhood, and is not actively in therapy doing any work on themselves, they're just going to continue living the same life over and over again. They're going to continue repeating the same patterns of unsuccessful and unfulfilled relationships, and just one after another. You know, I meet individuals all the time that are around a decade or more older than me, right? And I hear stories about their lives and their relationships and this, that, and the other. And I mean, we're all just repeating patterns, but I listen to them and I'm like, oh, they're still the same person that they were in high school, in college, if they went to college. Maybe they didn't, I don't know, right? But they're still the same person because they're repeating a pattern over and over and over again. Over and over and over again, just going about life with the blindfold on, the blinders on, not being able to see a lot more that they could because they're just not doing the work to change. And it's really that simple.